Yeah, it's incredible. I was talking to somebody earlier that when I got here in 2018, this was some lines on a page, and here we are sat here in the press conference room, and for the first time ever, fans in the stadium, players on the field, and it's felt like a sound check for May the 1st to me. Just getting everything, those final touches, but great testament to so many people, too many to mention, that kind of delivered this whole thing across the board. And I mean, it really is epic. I got a chance to go on the concourse and talk to some fans, and didn't hear anybody say anything other than amazing, great things, and that's what we wanted to build, and very excited to get it open.
Mike, what did it take for you to build the team that will be taking the field on May 1st in partnership with Jerry?
Well, we talk a lot with the guys about managing expectations, and I think you have challenges sometimes when you have a level of success in your first two seasons, develop maybe a level of entitlement. I think it's important people can appreciate that where we expect to win every game, we think we're capable of winning every game. The reality is, that we're still building this thing, getting it going, and it's almost like this figurative mile marker in a race. For us, everything's kind of built toward May 1st from the standpoint. Talked to the players last week that some of them have been here 3 years, some have been here 3 months. But they all want to be a part of a new franchise, of an expansion group, and the chance to open this stadium. It's a palace. So when you see something like this, the chance to build off of last season, where we were one of 7 teams in the history of the league to go the whole year undefeated at home. It's exciting to think now having our own building, our own venue. What that means.
Following on that note, what does it take to remain undefeated here and following the past few weeks, a historic run for you with 3 wins for the team on the road, 2 more? What does it take for you to take the team all the way here?
Yeah, I think to Mike's point, it's easy to maybe expect that things are going to be exactly the same as they were at Titans. I think the expectations are that this will be an incredibly good home field, great atmosphere. Surface this morning was exceptional. Groundsman was constantly making sure that we weren't going to be in one area too long, and that's for a reason. We want this place to look and feel wonderful when we get here on May the 1st. But as far as home form goes, I think all of the qualities and the connections that we had at Titans will feel very natural after a couple of games here, no doubt about it. But in such a brand new building, which is absolutely fantastic, we've got to try and make it feel like home. And the fans will do a massive job in transitioning the team from what has been an incredibly tough first and opening 8 fixtures of the season. And the guys will look forward to getting back here like you wouldn't believe, especially after today.
Thank you, Coach. We will now open the room for questions. Break, please, Stephen.
Question for you, Ian. Just wanted to talk about, obviously, such a historic moment, and a part of that has been tickets sold, season tickets and single game tickets, selling out in hours. You also mentioned throughout the past few years about this being a part of that is events, activations, and maybe you have a concert. What are the plans for May 1st? What's going to happen?
So there's a lot. I'll get in trouble with the people who are putting it together if I announce it before they're ready. But imagine in the build-up outside on the event square at the north end, we're going to have live music, a live show out there before kickoff. Long before kickoff, to bring people up early. The stadium was built so that the bathrooms are reversible on the north end, and that's important because when you do an outdoor event, people can come in the stadium without fully coming in the stadium. We have the big screen out there. We'll have some food trucks and drinks out there, and then we'll start to open up. We'll move people inside. Big music theme throughout the day. Live music performance before the game. A final whistle concert on the mini stage. Guitar riff, anthem, the whole thing. I mean, really so much going on. And I think, as we saw today, as much of opening day, more so than the days that will follow, is also about people who haven't had the opportunity that some had today. Come and find their seat, come and see what we've got to offer. But I think in the round, the hope is that people come, and the headliner for the day is, Gary's team on the pitch against Philadelphia, but it's like going to a festival. There's a bunch of other things to enjoy, and we hope everybody leaves with a great memory from that historic day.
Gary and I guess the players have known for a while, obviously, this was going to happen. But how important is it to have your own place in terms of building an identity for the club? I mean, obviously, Nissan was great, but it wasn't your mistake.
I mean, it couldn't be more important. I think the organisation and the players have done an incredibly good job of performing well on the field and showing what strength the organisation has off of it, especially at a venue that's not our own. To be able to open up on May the 1st here and see what the future looks like as our own stadium and our own venue, our own world, if you like. The locker rooms look magnificent, as you can imagine. There are so many things here that the guys will look forward to, but as I said, you got to make it your own. The history that teams build over time will start on May the 1st, and unfortunately for all of our good home performances at Titans, we move that on. It can be remembered, but this building won't have seen that, and we've got to try and reproduce that, which I've no doubt the guys will be, absolutely pumped to try and achieve.
Yeah, I think for any team, whether it's in soccer or other, that the stadium's the spiritual home, and if you're renting, it's not the same as owning, right? And I think, it's such an important piece of all of the infrastructure and the parts we built. It's the most important, and importantly, it's most important as well as for the team and all of us. It's really important for fans. You have your seat in your place in your part of the stadium where you'll bring your son or daughter or wife or friends and create those memories. When you're in a stadium, if any of us who are already soccer fans that have been supporting their team for years, you know what all those amazing memories were when the team won in the last minute or won a trophy or all of those things, and I think that's what we've built here. We've built that place to create memories for fans, and that just lifts the club even higher than we've been so far.
Tim, go ahead.
For Mike, when you are looking to add talent to your team in the future, does a facility like this serve as a selling point that you can kind of use in recruitment to say, hey, come play in this beautiful facility for this franchise?
Yeah, there's no question. I think when we talk to players wanting a part of this whole journey with us, the idea of opening a new venue, it definitely is a selling point. The number of guys, obviously we place a premium on having guys with MLS experience, guys who know what it's like with the rigors of travel in our country, with the demands of our league. A lot of these players who joined us had talked about the idea about being somewhere where they could be a part of a venue opening, and I think it's absolutely a huge selling point for us.
Yeah, Ian and Mike, you both talked about the phrase uniquely Nashville quite a bit in terms of the mentality of the team, in terms of the touches of the stadium. At this, as you say, Mike, mile marker for the club, I would love for each of you to assess how this team, how this stadium will mirror in a lot of ways what Nashvillians would expect and kind of reflect that Nashville identity and not just a good soccer team in a great city.
Well, I think from the fans' point of view, we really listened a lot early on, and we're in the music city, right? So there's a big focus on music. We purposely built that stage in the north corner because we want to bring music to the game, not in the game, but around the game. The event square was another part of that. The food story that we've talked about, which has been really well received, ahead of opening, and comments today is about recognizing what people love, what Nashville's becoming about this food story, and so I think apart from our own Levy driven concessions, all of the other third-party concessions are Nashville or Tennessee brands that people know and people love, and that was from consultation. And so I think, it's like I said before, if you come to somebody's house, you want to feel welcome and familiar, and that we think that, and the combination of music and the reaching every price point was important. We recognized that people have different pockets to spend from, and everything from $12 up to the suite level. I think there is genuinely something for everyone at food, seed choice and obviously a great sport that people can learn quickly and enjoy who haven't been before.
Valley.
Mike, we talked off record about the stuff that this team has been riding the highway since the very beginning. And it's not, I mean, even if you look at the rest of the teams in the MLS, it's not common. I mean, it's desirable. Everybody wants that. Everybody would like Nashville to be riding there forever. But it might be up and down on the way we go. This is probably one of the franchises that I've known through my life that has been in such a short time. We talked about it right there. I mean, 2 times in the playoffs, new stadium, probably having a great success even this year, even though they have to travel eight games away. I mean, things are going in such a nice way. But in terms of the expectations that the fans and everybody must have, how much do you think people must be grounded or anything else when it comes?
You mentioned, we were talking about this outside for a little bit. I think I mentioned about the challenges you have when you have a level of success in the locker room, making sure that players aren't entitled. And, I think that happens with supporters and the media as well. I think that we want to have our fans and supporters believe that we can win every game we play. Gary and I go through our own like a match predictor, and even games where we don't predict to get a win, we still believe we can win each of those games. But I think people can be honest also with expectations. I think in a very short period of time, maybe we've spoiled some that now expect us to do that all the time. In some regards, maybe some unrealistic expectations. To me, I think expectation matched with resources. When you look at what we spend compared to other teams, when you see the profiles of our players, like their CVs before they arrive here compared to some other places, I think we're pretty grounded from the standpoint that where we do expect ourselves to compete in each game, and I think Gary and the guys continue to demonstrate we can do that. But we're also realistic about the fact that, to be honest, we probably shouldn't be in the position we're in. There are teams with significantly more resources, that haven't achieved what we have, and we don't take that for granted. We appreciate how hard it is to compete in our league, but we're also realistic about the fact that, and appreciative that where we're here right now and we believe we can. We also maybe we're kind of in uncharted waters from the standpoint. Maybe we probably shouldn't be in this situation.
We're going to go back to you, Mike, with a question from Wes that didn't get answered. Apologies about that.
Again, the theme was just, from a stadium standpoint, from a club personnel standpoint, you talked about building a club that reflects the identity of Nashville. At this milestone for you guys, how do you feel like the club's mentality reflects that spirit and resonates with the people here?
We've been this group that's had this chip on our shoulders with something to prove. We've flown the blind spot of teams, coming in as a less heralded partner in expansion. Most cases, either people forget to talk about us or say we're not as good as other people think. I think when you see a venue like this, it's, we go from being, like this brand new team to now like an established group of their own home. I think to Gary's point before, look, we've had some tremendous success at home last year, but that's also last season. I think what happens sometimes, when Pat Riley was a coach of the Los Angeles Lakers, he talked about after winning a championship, the idea like the disease of more. What that happens is, when a group has success, players expect more money and more playing time, and players or staff expect to have more recognition. And there's a balancing act with that. And I think now we have this palace, this cathedral to play in. But, part and parcel of that now is a responsibility we have to turn it into a home field advantage.
Drake.
Ian, of course, going into May 1st, a lot of the talk has been about how the fans are going to get to the stadium and the parking situation. And we saw that last week with the amount of time, a little time that fans had to get their spot. Do you have an actual numbers, the capacity of stalls available? Do you have a plan, perhaps, to...
Yeah, so we pushed that out to season ticket holders. Last week so we have up to 5,000 club controlled parking spaces for game day, because of a number of factors really that control that swelling up and down slightly depending on a couple of external factors. What we couldn't do was sell all of those for a seasonal basis. That doesn't mean we don't have them. It just means we can't guarantee every spot for every week, for every game. So we around about 50%, give or take, we do have complete control of on every game. So we sold those on a sort of priority basis. And as you said, just like season tickets, they went pretty quickly. But that second half of that is still to be sold every game. to people. So it's a big number, I would say. And then, of course, beyond that, you've got any third-party lots, people who privately doing stuff. We put some great communication out around the bus services and other ways to get to the stadium, what the best routes were, what the distances are. So we feel good about the general inventory. I think we have a lot, and the third-party elements will service that well. But I've said this a number of times, I think I'd said it to you, Drake, was, you know, I think people also have to grasp that certainly in the first few games, it will be a challenge for everyone, not just for the soccer club to manage that, but for everybody. Everybody's coming to a new place, parking in a new section. I know I used to go to Anfield every week for about 25 years, and I parked in the same spot, but the first time you go, you don't know where that spot is, you don't know how to find it, you don't know how long it takes you to get in with traffic and how long to get out, and that's like growing pains. But that isn't to do with a lack of planning or infrastructure, it's just the newness. And I think you see that with every new venue in sports or other. And we feel good about, we work really closely with a whole bunch of, we have a parking agent, work with them, we work with the city, with NDOT, and there's an awful lot of work gone into the planning and the production of it. It's just a case of rolling it out now. But I think there was a a kind of misguided sort of view of because we sold out quickly. I think a lot of people felt like everything's gone, whereas really we're about 50% and another 50% still to sell on a game-by-game basis.
Then go ahead.
Yeah, this is for Gary and also Mike, if you have thoughts. You talked about wanting to kind of finish this road trip with at least a point per game, and you've already hit that. Obviously,
You're going to make me dance?
no point. But obviously the points are the most important thing. But how much of a priority was it to get into this stadium kind of in a good run of form to take advantage of the back half of the season?
Yeah, I'll answer first, shall I?
Sure.
I mean, as important as possible to make it, and I know that's not a straightforward answer, but now we're in a decent position. I think it puts everyone in a buoyant mood, in a confident mood. You come into your home stadium with a much better feeling, and not just that. I think the team's been performing well on the road. Last year there were some games for sure where we were criticised in a lot of quarters for not conceding enough goals, which is strange, and part of the game, by the way. But we've shown a very different edge to, I think, our evolution, if you like, and some of the discussion leading into the season with the group was, look, we're going to have this long run of games, but we don't want to come back home and be playing in such a stifling style, if you like, that is difficult to get out of, because you do get into routines and rhythms. And if you look at our performance at the weekend as one example, yes, it was a very open game. On the day, of course, we edged it, but lots and lots of chances. I would imagine if you were a neutral, it was an incredibly exciting game. And of course, they're the type of games that we would love to put on in this stadium, and you've got to be in the right mindset for that. So we're in a good spot, but I don't think anyone's looking at it and saying we've done enough by any stretch, because every single point you can add to the board in whatever way you can, and every game's different, is going to help in that process towards the post-season and of course ultimately being in a good position to try and strike for silverware.
I think sometimes you can take it for granted how hard it is to win in this league. I mean, you've written about that, right? I mean, and I think the reality is there's a better chance of us losing all 8 of our first games than winning all 8 of our first games. So when I read about like dropping 2 games in a row and slumping, or struggling, to me it's like saying 4 games in a season is a must-win game. I mean, to have 3 wins in our first 6 matches in a row. Last year there were 6 teams went the entire season that didn't win 3 games. There were 6 more teams that won just 3 games. 12 teams that won 3 games or less on the road the whole year That's almost half the league. We've done that in our first 6 games. I think these guys have absolutely overachieved where we picked to be. You know, I got accused of sandbagging, looking at our total of what we expected, you know, going through the first 8 games. But the reality is, you know, we use that phrase a lot, but being like card counters in a casino. And I said it before, I mean, like, this guy wants to win every game we play, you know, but the reality is we've got like a really clear plan of what we have to do to accumulate 48-plus points to get in the playoffs. And whether people think it's attractive or not, I mean, like, I don't really care. Yeah.
Questions for Gary. We were talking to a couple of players earlier just about the anticipation leading up to this. They've been around for a couple of years, the guys we talked to, and knowing that the promise of this was going to be there, but now we're 3 weeks out. For you, who have been here even longer than that, where are you at now with the anticipation level, knowing that it's like right there after all those years?
When I look back at the early days of 2017, I remember the opening friendly at First Tennessee Park against Atlanta United. Absolutely tipped down with rain. There were puddles everywhere, and you know, it was a difficult encounter after 10 days of training. If you look at where we were then to where, you know, this has grown and what the franchise now represents, it's just light years away from where we started. There have been so many positive things that have happened, and this is right now the most exciting thing that's going on. The guys are, as I've said a couple of times, really, really pumped to get home, first and foremost, after these long road trips. But to open up on May the 1st with a sellout, and you know, just looking at the 3 years, or this is the 3rd year, of course, for you know, a core of our group now. They've been in that, as Ian said, that rented accommodation, and now, you know, to be able to represent the club and the city in our own stadium, full house, is something very, very special. I think it's a memory that whoever's here on the day, myself included, will remember for a long, long time.
We'll go to Brian, and then we're gonna have time for 3 more questions. So Julia and Gentry and Craig.
Sort of jumping off what Drake was talking about earlier with the parking for Ian, what would you suggest outside of those 2,500 fans that are season ticket holders? Where should they park?
Yeah, I think you know, there are definitely, you know, I've seen a lot of stuff on social media of people reaching out and sharing, and we're you know, we said this last week, we're still in conversation with other parties for third-party lots that we'd be happy to have our parking team manage. There is a lot. I mean, this is a big area with a lot of space around it. I think, you know, as we, you know, I go to Titans games and you find your place, right? I think that the club managed lots will be full for sure, with season ticket holders and people that we've sold to already. I think it's really about coming down a few days early and taking a drive around and finding that place, because it's a new place, right? It's orientation more than anything. But I feel confident, as I said, that over, you know, the first few games, people will find their place. I have friends who go to Titans games who've parked in the same place that they've been parking in for 15 years that is not an official parking space. I think, you know, and I did that myself for years at other teams, and I think it's just settling in. I don't think we're short of parking. I think we're just all getting used to the growing pains of a brand new stadium.
Julia.
So this is a question for Ian. You all will be hosting job fairs in the coming weeks to staff GEODIS Park. So about how many people are you guys looking to hire to make sure things run smoothly here across the different sectors?
Yeah, so those job fairs have been going on for about a month or so now, and they're going really well. I couldn't tell you the exact number that's left. I think it's in the sort of low tens, you know, 30, 40 people total. And that's right across the whole building. So from concession workers to cleaning staff to security staff. But we feel confident about hitting those numbers. We've been really intentional about finding as many people as possible from the local area. We said all along as part of our community benefits initiative that we wanted to offer opportunity to people in the local area. So a lot of those job fairs have been hosted locally and certainly across Nashville. So we feel good about it. We feel great. I mean, I've got to meet, we had a small event here Sunday and another event obviously today. It's been great to meet those people and see how excited they are. I think it's easy to think that it's all about soccer and fans, but for people who are getting these opportunities, it's brand new facilities in a brand new stadium and a new opportunity for some people in this neighbourhood, and I think that's right. I think the fact that we can give something back to the community in that sense this early is really encouraging.
Ian, when you think back to some of the hurdles and the negotiations, things that were going on in 2020 to get this going, how important then was it to have this, to kind of legitimize the club, to know this was going to happen, and then make sure that you're able to break ground, and then when you think back to now until then, just how important was that?
Well, the process was absolutely necessary, right? And I think any major construction project always has hurdles that try to trip you up and people that try to trip you up. I think that there are things that were really, really tough for the organisation in that process. I think we've talked about it a lot. John and I and Mary and other people on the team have talked a lot about when you go through that journey, it almost makes you more. Mike talked about it from a player point of view. It almost galvanizes everybody. And what was most important, having got those permissions and got the ability to build this, was that A, the building was a success, and B, what we do in the building is a success. And Gary and Mike and everybody on that side of the business has done a fantastic job of creating a team that people want to come and follow. And the fact that we've sold almost 22,000 season tickets already, and the fact that we're getting this incredible support, and the fact that people are talking about it, and you drive around the city and there's Nashville bumper stickers and jerseys, it's really arrived. It's arrived before we open on May 1st, and in a huge amount, and that's so important. It's one thing to say you want to build a stadium, but build it and they will come doesn't really work. You've got to build a team that people want to watch. And so it's every facet. It's not just about the steel and brick and wood that built this stadium and all the incredible work that went into that. It's about all of the individual parts of a sports team, in this case a soccer club. If they all have to work, it's no good having a great stadium and a team that don't do well, or likewise it's no good having a great team and a stadium that doesn't function or serve its purpose. And I think we just about got most things right, and the proof will be in plugging it in and switching it on May the 1st, I guess.
Great, take us home.
Yeah, questions for Mike and for Gary. Wanted to talk about, obviously previously you mentioned really not needing much motivation to want to go compete and beat somebody. But obviously the matchup itself against Philly, having history with them at the end of the playoffs, and where Philly is right now, not beating whether they're playing, and the way that you guys are playing. How important perhaps is that to impose national self on anyone, but particularly against Philadelphia in that opening game?
Look, the way our season ended last year, I mean, it obviously creates a great rivalry that the two clubs have, and I think probably represents some very similar things about what they try to do on both sides of the ball. We probably, for the players who were here last year, and probably couldn't have had a better opponent in the fixture when it popped up to see that we had to open at home against them. We take a lot of pride in the idea about what we're trying to create at home. Before at Nissan, now here at this venue. And I think as much as we talk about wanting to create a home field advantage and the opportunity we have for our fans to be loud, to be raucous, to make the other team uncomfortable, a lot of the responsibility falls on us. We have to make sure that we keep up our end of the bargain, by not only by how we play, but how we behave and perform. And I think there's not another team probably that would carry more motivation for us, going into our brand new venue than a chance to play against Philadelphia.
Really, to Mike's point, I mean, Philadelphia are a very strong outfit. I think they're a bit of a benchmark team, certainly in the last 2 or 3 seasons. The way that their group has developed under Jim has been exceptional, really, and their achievements go with it. So therefore, the game will always be tough. nothing to choose between the teams in the playoff game. And you know, unfortunately, we know the result of that in the end. But I think for us, you know, we're still a good way behind them in terms of our own opportunity to develop, not just as a team, but obviously young players as well. And I think we can take an awful lot from the way that organisation has come together and what they've achieved. And they're certainly a group that we should be aspiring to in terms of, you know, success that they've had as well. But May the 1st will be tough, no doubt about it, especially if they're playing as well as they are.